Okay, I think we are recording. So let me share my screen.
All right, hi everyone, and welcome to our February 15th meeting of the Curriculum and Instruction Advisory Committee. So first thing is oral communication. So this is when we allow 10 minutes for any public comments, and speakers can use the raise hand tool to indicate that they want to speak. Each speaker is allowed 1 minute, and after 10 minutes, we'll close oral communications. So are there any public comments at this time?
At this point, Tushar, I don't see any raised hands.
All right, yeah, we can move on then, and if anyone raises their hand, we can accommodate. Oh, Monica Ravella.
Yes, hi. I just had a quick question. As I went on to the Curriculum and State or an Instruction website or webpage today, I saw the parent feedback form or community feedback form for the upcoming social emotional learning adoption for the next school year. And I was just wondering if that was sent also via email to folks, or how are we getting the word out there that there's that feedback form?
Right, so I'm going to go ahead and answer your question, Monica. In general, oral communications is an opportunity for people to come and share 1 minute of their perspective with the committee. It's generally not a place where we have conversations with participants, but I will answer your question super quickly, and that is yes, the announcement is out on all of the each of the school websites. It's also out on it was sent out by Bright Arrow. So people have been notified a couple of different ways.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, for now we can move on then. So the agenda, you all received it by email. So we'll be going over our core novel update, and then after that talking about social emotional learning. And we'd also like to ask for this month if there is a volunteer to take minutes.
While we're meeting online like this with a recording, our department secretary, Julie Wise, can listen to the recording later on and generate the minutes, which is how we have minutes for this month. She did that with last month's meeting. When and if we go back to meeting in person, then we will need to have somebody take the minutes. But for this month, Julie can take care of it for us.
All right, yeah, thank you so much. And if anyone wants to take minutes later, they can let us know. We'd also like to quickly go over some of the committee norms, just to make sure our microphones are on mute when we're not speaking, and also a reminder that these meetings are broadcast and recorded, and the rest of the norms are the same as always. And yeah.
Okay, and you know what? I forgot to have us do something, so I'm going to enter into the chat just a heading that says start of the regular meeting, and then another heading for those present. What I need to have everyone do is I need to have you turn your cameras on, and I will stop sharing for a minute. We need to see your face, and then we need to have you type into the chat just the word present, and it will appear under your name heading. And then after that's been done, if you'd like to go back to having your camera off, you're welcome to do that. But just for the sake of the attendance, that's how we need to have this happen. Okay. Thank you very much. And Tushar, on we go.
All right. And yeah, the previous meeting's minutes were already sent via email. So are there any corrections that any committee members would like to suggest to those January meeting minutes? Okay. And then, oh yeah, Shilpa.
I was just saying, I apologize. My internet's on and off, so you see me going in and out. But
Oh yeah, no worries.
but are you looking for someone to motion for approval of the minutes?
Yeah, sure. We can take a motion.
Okay, I motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second? All right, thank you, Stacy. And for the vote, you can just, are we still just typing yes in chat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if you agree to approve the minutes, no, if you don't, and abstain if you were not here for that meeting, and so you wouldn't have an opinion about this.
My vote is yes, but I can't figure out how to do this on the phone thing. It's not showing up, but yes.
I'll type yours in for you.
I think it looks like that motion carries.
Great.
And now we'll be turning it over for a core literature adoption update. So this is a process that's been going on for the last couple months, and we've been receiving these updates. So this is just another one to show you how far along we've come in the process.
Great, thank you, Tushar. Yeah, as Tushar said, I've been keeping you guys up to date, and this, as I mentioned, carries over from even last year, from the prior year. If you were at our most recent in-person meeting, you saw we spread the books out and gave people an opportunity to take a look at it. So I just wanted to catch you up on where we are. Our adoption process was the 6-step process that you can see outlined here on the screen. We are now in steps 5 and 6. That is, we are ready to present a recommendation to the board, and we're also beginning to think about what we're going to do for ongoing support for our teachers. You might remember that we started the process by developing a vision statement, which is here. And I did highlight a few keywords because it's a little bit long, but we were looking for a variety of books. We wanted diverse authors and characters, including historically underrepresented groups. We wanted novels that were enduring, relatable, and engaging. We wanted them to give students both those windows and those mirrors. That is, an opportunity to understand other people's range of human experience, and also then to see their own lives reflected in the book. We looked for books that would foster empathy, critical thinking, and ever deepening levels of understanding. So that was the vision statement we worked with as we chose books for this collection. Here are the titles that we ended up with, and I say we're going to be recommending to the board, and should the board approve them, then this will be our new collection. They're in order from left to right, 7th grade to 12th grade. So the 2 books in 7th grade are Inside Out and Back Again and New Kid. 8th grade, I Am Malala and Real. 9th grade, Born a Crime and Romeo and Juliet. 10th grade, A Thousand Splendid Suns. And then we've given teachers a choice between either Night or Mouse. Those 2 books both cover the Holocaust, but they do it in very different formats. And so we wanted to give teachers a little bit of choice there. 11th grade, Everything I Never Told You and The Great Gatsby. For 12th grade, 1984 and The Poet X. So we're pretty excited about the diversity of the collection. Just to give you an idea of how far we've come, in the top graphs there, you can see in our prior list that 84% of the authors that we were reading in the prior list were men and 16% were women. The new list is split almost 50-50. it's an odd number of books, so it couldn't be quite, but 50%, 58% men and 42% women. The old list was written pretty much only by European and European Americans, with one Asian American author. Our new list, you can see, still has a large number of European and European American authors, but also Asian and Asian American authors, African American, and Hispanic Latino authors. So one of the things we were striving for was diversity of authors and diversity of characters. And so while we recognize that this is not a collection that represents every experience and every person in our district, it's really not possible to do that with just 12 books. And we're excited about the diversity that these bring. We will be encouraging teachers to determine where there might be gaps in the list based on the class that they are working with for the current year, and then they will be able to use supplemental literature to add diversity even beyond this. So our next steps are going to be to we're in the communication phase. We are sharing information within Fremont Unified, including with you guys. We are in the process of inviting community review and feedback, not of the individual books, but of the composition of the collection as a whole. Our next step will be to seek board approval, and then there are a number of books that were nominated to be considered and were not chosen, because of course we had 76 books nominated and only 12 of them ended up being chosen. So we have a process where we will look at those other books that had been nominated and see if we can get them approved for use as supplemental or optional novels. Then the final steps will be implementation, where we just need to buy the books, we need to get them out to the sites, and then we need to do some professional development. Right, so I would love to open this up for questions or comments at this point. And I'm going to stop sharing so people can see each other. And if you've got something you'd like to say, just go ahead and raise your hand. Stacy.
Kim, can you clarify one thing? Because I'm not sure if I understood you correctly. I know in the past, some of the books that was on the initial list before you guys got it down to 2 books, and I wouldn't want to be a fly on that wall because I know there were some great books. If a book was previously on the core adoption list, does it automatically go to the supplemental list, or does it need to be reviewed to go to the supplemental?
That's a great question, and it's one that matters a lot to teachers. Everything that was on the prior core list is now available to be taught as a supplemental. So no teacher has lost access to any book that they were working with before. They can always continue to teach those books that they feel are powerful and relevant to students, in addition to these new core novels.
And then the ones going up for supplemental are the new books we were considering but wasn't selected. I just want to make sure I understood. So great job. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking those questions. And then there is one additional way that books can be approved for teachers to use them, and that is that we do rely on the CDE, the California Department of Education recommended reading list. So if a book appears on the CDE list, it's automatically approved for a teacher to use it in their class. So we're really trying to get as many diverse books available to teachers quickly as we possibly can. All right, Mr. Cruz.
Yeah, so I just want to commend the committee. I mean, it's been a long process, but at the same time, a quick process. I mean, from those initial presentations last year. My question is about the recent parent survey that went out through FUSD. And I found, a lot of the questions were about the core, the literature and the diversity in the literature. I was just wondering if this was done in conjunction with the work that the C&I committee is doing, or is that something separate? And how does that dovetail with the efforts of the C&I committee?
And are you speaking of the survey that went out just in the last couple days?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the questions on that, so I'm not familiar. So I guess my answer would be it has not been done in conjunction with this committee, with the adoption committee. Thank you. Megan.
Hi, I will express my thanks as well for the work on this. I am thrilled that we've got some of these new novels in. My question for the supplementals, do we have a timeline or even a ballpark of when we are thinking that that conversation for approval is happening?
We have 5 books that we're going to be considering in March. We will have another supplemental adoption meeting at the end of May, and we've put the list out to the English department chairs to say these are the books that were nominated that would be candidates for supplemental. And so we are hearing from teachers that they would like to be the person to represent or sponsor a book. So our goal is to get them out all this year, get them approved this year if we can. If not, it may roll into our first approval meeting, which will be in the fall next year. But we're really trying to fast track as many as we can. Jamie.
I just had a clarifying question going back to your explanation of the books that are on the CDE list that are accessible. Do they need to be on the CDE list and approved for that grade level that the teacher would like to use it in?
I don't remember whether the CDE list specifies grade levels, does it?
Yeah. So I just wanted to find out, like, if I was teaching 9th grade, even though it's on the CDE list, if it's a title that's meant for 11th and 12th grade, would I be able to use it as a supplemental or not?
No, you wouldn't be able to go up grade levels. You could go down grade levels if you wanted to. If you were in 11th and you found a 10th grade book, you could use that.
Okay, thanks.
The communication that needs to happen among teachers at a school is just to make sure that there isn't overlap. If you're an 11th grade teacher using a book that was approved for 10th, you just need to make sure that you're not going to discover your students read it the prior year. All right, any other questions or comments about this? No? Okay. Well then, with any luck, the next update I give to you all on this will be, we got our list approved. That's what we're hoping. All right, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Oh, Mr. Cruz, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, I guess it relates again to the survey. It'd be great once you do give us that final update, if there would be some sort of social media blast or something like that, just to kind of celebrate this.
It's a great idea. It's worth celebrating. Yeah, thank you. Okay, then there's, this is really the bulk of the presentation for this month. I'd like to let you know what we have done around adopting curriculum for social emotional learning. So that's what this update will be. So kind of starting back at the beginning, why do we even need a social emotional learning curriculum? And kind of what social emotional learning helps students manage their feelings. It helps them work with emotions. It helps them know how to develop positive relationships. You might remember in November, we had a presentation from a group of students from American High School who had done a mental health survey. And they found that really kind of a scary number of students rated their mental health as very low. 13% of the people in their survey chose 5, which was the lowest score. And almost 75% of people were in the lower half, either a 5, a 4, or a 3. There were only 4% of the students that were surveyed who rated their mental health as 1, which was the highest. And so that was definitely worrisome. American High School ran some social emotional learning workshops and then resurveyed students and found that the workshops helped people feel much better about their mental health. And I don't know, Megan, do you want to add anything more about that at this point?
We did do a survey through the Stanford Challenge Success And we found that this is very much still a wanted need from our students. And so having some curriculum built in is very much something that our students are craving right now. And they've expressed that to us very clearly.
Thank you, Megan. You might remember that the student presentation also offered not only the idea that it would be important to have a social emotional learning freestanding curriculum, but also that integration of social emotional topics into classwork broadly. They were making that suggestion around things that could happen in history classes, things that could happen in English classes, and lots of other places. The other input that we had came from a survey that we did of our Fremont Unified Site principals, and there was a very strong consensus that this was a strong need, that this was an immediate need, and that this was among their highest priorities, as Principal Barrington has told us. So for those reasons, and of course it was a priority of our school board as well. So we launched a social emotional learning curriculum. There are probably 100 or more social emotional learning curricula available. And we wanted to use, we wanted to have some sort of a way to determine which ones were going to be worth taking the time to really do an in-depth dive. And so we relied to a large degree on an organization called CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And they identify really 5 components of healthy social emotional well-being for students: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And these aligned really nicely with what our principals told us were high priorities for the students in their schools. So our own Jennifer Athanasio, who is a member of this committee, used data from CASEL to determine which programs were best aligned with our needs. CASEL, well, Jen, do you want to talk just briefly about kind of the criteria that you used and how you picked the programs that we would take a look at?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I say Castle. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. It could be Castle. I don't know. Yeah, so this is a pretty well-established centric circles of, you can see, starting with social emotional learning and the multiple ripples that it impacts in everyone's life. And so they have 3 designations of research-based, my words, putting on the spot and my words are not coming to me. Basically, we went through SEL Select is, I believe, the top choice of the designations that are research-based social emotional curriculums. They apply for CASEL to review them, and then CASEL, based on research, ranks them. I'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4. And we only selected the top 1, the curriculums that got a 1 from CASEL's multitude of qualifications. And then the Wallace Foundation was another group that has done a ton of research on SEL curriculums. As well, you don't all get the emails that I get, but I get a ton of SEL curriculum emails. And so there's a lot out there on the market right now. And so we wanted a research-based, evidence-based curriculum. So we used these 2, CASEL and the Wallace Foundation, and I deduced maybe 30 into 8. And then we cut that down, I believe, to 6 or 7, Kim, that we then met in grade bed spans. And I'm probably jumping ahead, but CASEL and the Wallace Foundation, it was quite the task, but super exciting because there's a lot out there right now. So yeah, evidence-based, research-based was our top priority.
Great. Thank you very much for your willingness to jump in spontaneously. Sorry I put you on the spot. So once we had identified that small group of programs that Jen talked to us about, we convened an adoption team. There were 24 people on the team. They represented all the way from kindergarten teachers up through 12th grade teachers. We included teachers, we had counselors, we had psychologists, we had site administrators, and we had district office staff. So we really tried to put together a team that brought multiple perspectives to this important task of choosing which social emotional curriculum we were going to want. Then once we got everybody together, we spent some time just agreeing on what we were looking for and what our definition of social emotional learning was. We talked about which programs we were going to consider. We developed a rubric by which we could do evidence-based analysis of each of the programs in a real systematic way. And then we divided the reviewers up into 3 grade band teams. So we had kindergarten through 5th grade team. We had a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade team. We had a 9th through 12th grade team. Each of the people in those teams reviewed the programs that were appropriate for their grade band, scored them on the rubric, and then we came back together in our grade band teams, talked about the strengths and the limitations of each of the programs, and then came to consensus for each of our grade bands about which program we felt was going to be best. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to take you through and just show you some of the materials that were being recommended. So for our K-5 grade band group and also our 6, 7, 8 grade band book group, both recommended the program from Second Step. 9th through 12th recommended a program from Lion's Quest. And so I'm just going to take you in and I'm going to leave the slideshow for a second, and I'm going to take you to the actual websites, and I'm going to show you some of the curriculum. So this is the curriculum for K through 5, kindergarten through 5th grade. It's an all digital program. The materials are presented by a teacher. Excuse me. Pardon me, I get all choked up talking about social emotional learning. So the materials are available digitally. They're presented by a teacher, and a little bit of information about what's included. So each one of the grades, kindergarten through 5th grade, has 4 units in it. And each of the units has the same theme to it. So whether you're a kindergartner or a 3rd grader or a 5th grader, the first unit you're going to get is a unit about growth mindset and goal setting. So we're kind of helping students get in the frame of mind to be successful. Unit 2 for all of those grade levels is emotion management. So we help students have the vocabularies to talk about their emotions. How do you recognize emotions? How do you label them? How do you process them? And this was one thing that we heard particularly from our elementary principals. That was something that they really felt was important for students. Unit 3, you can see, focuses on empathy and kindness. And Unit 4 focuses on problem solving. So in the years to come, as a student moves from being a 1st grader to a 2nd grader to a 3rd grader, they will explore each of these 4 themes in more depth as they are older and as they're just ready for a more sophisticated approach to things. I'd like to show you a sample of how this looks. So I'm just going to I don't think I want to do kindergarten. Maybe I'll take a 3rd grade lesson. So, I bet you can't see that. Cross. Oh, you're not going to be able to see that, are you? Okay, hang on a second. I'm going to need to change my sharing here. Okay, so this is what a lesson plan looks like for a third grade lesson. And you can see of the 20 lessons, this is lesson 14. So it's fairly far into the program. The lesson starts out with a brain builder, and this is true of all of the lessons. So the brain builder is kind of a fun game just to get kids focused, to get them kind of, lots of times it's a physical thing, like something they get up out of their seat and do. So just to get a little bit of the wiggles out of them. Then there's a getting started section where you can see the words in the dark bold font are the words that a teacher would actually say. So we know empathy and kindness are important for friendships, blah, blah, blah. This is exactly what the students would say. Then they drop into a practice session. The practice session has a couple different videos. There's going to be a video here. And so the teacher is given the exact words that they would say. Then they play the video. When it pauses, they ask these questions. So you can see teachers are really guided through exactly what it is that they're going to be doing with students. So 15 minutes of practice. And then there's a little bit of review. So there is, in this case, there's going to be an activity where students are going to work in partners. And then at the very end, there's just a quick check to see how well everybody understood what they were doing. So that's what just kind of a third grade lesson plan would look like. I'm going to try to see. So if I were to show you now the lesson presentation for this, you can see down here along the bottom, there are all those sections that we talked about, the brain builder to get us started, and then the practice sessions that will have the video. So for instance, if I come here to this practice session, you can see that there's a video that the students would watch, and then it pauses, and then there's another video section, and then it pauses, and that's when the teacher would weave in those questions. So that's basically what an elementary lesson would look like. Let me jump to a middle school lesson. Now for middle school, you'll see we still have 4 themes. They're a little bit different in grades 6, 7, and 8 than they were in K-5. We do again start out with mindset and goals. You remember the other one was growth mindset and setting goals, but still consistency there. Unit 2 for those 3 grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th, takes a look at bullying and harassment, which we know can be a real issue in those middle school grades. Then it comes back and talks about thoughts, emotions, and decisions. And then the 4th unit is about managing relationships and social conflict. Again, for any lesson, we have a lesson plan, we have a student handout, and then there are materials. So let's see. Let's see whether I'm going to, let me know if you can hear the audio on this.
Was it easier for you to come up with things that went wrong than things that went right? Me too. Turns out this isn't universal human behavior.
Okay, so just to give you a little bit of a setup, during the warm-up part of this, which we didn't do, students were asked, in fact, let me go back. Students were asked to do this. They were asked to write down as many things as they could think of that went wrong, either yesterday or today. And then they were asked to write down as many things as they could that went right yesterday or today. And then the video is going to use that activity. It's going to build on that activity. So.
Was it easier for you to come up with things that went wrong than things that went right? Me too. Turns out this isn't universal human behavior. In general, people focus more on the negative than the positive. Scientists even have a name for it. They call it negativity bias. But how exactly do they know about this bias? You can measure brain activity by putting what's called electrodes on the brain. Let's say you hook up electrodes to a bunch of people and you show them a series of pictures. The pictures aren't positive or negative. Then you show them a positive picture and you see how long it takes the brain to react. The brain will react, but it takes several seconds. If you show them a negative picture, the brain reacts immediately. And by the way, if you give people a choice, they'll continue looking at the negative picture longer. Have you ever noticed how someone can say lots of nice things to you, but if they say one mean thing, you end up thinking about the mean thing for hours or even days? This is because people are hardwired for negativity. But why? Scientists think that negativity bias kept our ancestors alive. If we missed a threat, it could be fatal. But if we missed an opportunity, it wasn't a big deal. The problem is, the world we live in now is very different from the world our ancestors lived in. Now, scientists are finding that people who have a positivity bias live longer, are healthier, and even get paid more. So what exactly are we supposed to do with all of this? Here's the cool thing. You're in charge. You actually have a lot more power than you think. You can change your brain and make it more positive. So just be positive, right? It sounds easy, and you've probably heard it 1,000 times before, but now you know it's not a natural thing for humans to do. So it takes some hard work and real practice to make it into a habit that will turn your negativity bias into a positivity bias.
Okay, so you've got a sense there for what a video would be like. Then they would go on and have a discussion. They would talk about the idea of positive self-talk and what that means. Then there'd be another video, there'd be an activity. So you begin to get a sense for kind of the flow of what this would look like. And this was a 7th grade lesson, pretty far into it. It was lesson 18, so quite a ways into the year. So that gives you kind of a sense for what the junior high lessons would look like. The high school lessons, as I mentioned, come from a different company. They come from a publisher called Lion's Quest. And I can open up just one of these, maybe a 10th grade lesson, and give you a chance to take a look at that. Maybe. There we go. All right. For 10th grade, they show us one that would be in Unit 2, one that would be in Unit 3. This one's called Exploring Emotions in Action. So again, you can see all the way from kindergarten up through 12th grade, this idea of emotions and just becoming comfortable with them and acknowledging that we all have them. These are themes that continue throughout. This one is lost in translation. So this is going to be a relationship kind of a lesson, which talks about the intent of something versus the impact of something that happens. So we have teacher materials over here. For instance, the unit opener. Right, give me a second. Let me go show that to you. All right, so the unit opener shows that this is part of Unit 3 of 5. You can see the themes for the units: positive learning community, personal development, social development, health and prevention, and then reflection and closure.
Kim, that's not actually showing up.
Oh, it isn't. Okay. Thank you, Sue. All right, how about that? So as I was mentioning across the top here, there are the 5 units for this grade level. a positive learning community, personal development, social development, health and prevention, and then reflection and closure. There's a list here of the kinds of skills that students are going to be working on learning during this unit, so this series of lessons. And then it gives teachers some ideas about things they can do to kick a class off, kind of energizers to get things started. And, or if you'd rather, for instance, start the lessons by writing a quotation on the board and having students maybe talk about what it means to them or write about what it means to them, you could do that instead. So again, the materials for the high school, and then they go on to have lessons, whole lessons that a teacher would present. All right, so that kind of gives you a sense for the K-5 recommendation, which is second step. That's not what I want. The 6-8 recommendation, which is also second step, and then that 9-12 recommendation, which is Lion's Quest. So what I'd like to do now, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it back over to Tushar. And we'd just love to hear your thoughts on what you've seen, and also if you can share ideas that you might have for implementation. So Tushar, can I hand this back to you?
Yeah, of course. So after seeing all of that information and the different resources with the curriculum, we would just like to hear from all of you if you have any ideas on how we can better implement this program, or anything, if you're parents, that you would like your children to see or experience during this, or if your teachers, any strategies you think would be beneficial for others to hear from, or generally any ideas you have about this curriculum.
Tushar, can you see the participant list?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Arati?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sure, great. Yeah, so I'm just curious to know, like, how are we planning to incorporate this in the classroom? Like, will the students, will they have assigned sessions probably every week or even more frequently? How are we planning to implement this in the classroom? Like, how often do they get such sessions? That's my question.
So the kindergarten through 5th grade has 20 lessons that would be presented kind of over the course of the year. Although I could imagine teachers might front load them a little bit, do them earlier in the year rather than spreading them out over the whole year, just so that kids then have those skills available to use, for the rest of the year. The junior high, middle school, and high school have a similar number of lessons. It's somewhere in the 20 to 25 lessons. So it's not something that would be presented every day. It might not even be something that gets presented every week, maybe every other week. In elementary classrooms, and I'm imagining this because they haven't been approved yet, and I haven't had a chance to talk to administrators, but I'm imagining that each elementary teacher will be responsible for presenting the lessons to their own students, and that there might be some agreement in across a school that, like, hey, we're all going to do unit 1, lesson 1 during the course of this week. And maybe next week we're going to do unit 1, lesson 2 at some point. And then each teacher will work it into their day, just as it works out around all their other topics. Secondary is has a lot of flexibility in how they might do it. And I imagine the way an individual school does it might be different from the way a different school does it. It will have to do with which teachers they decide are the appropriate teachers to be giving it, and also how it works into just into the flow of the schedule. And I don't know, Megan, I don't know if you would want to speak any more to that or not.
It just the comments bring up a flood of questions for me, really, and thinking about the length of the lessons and delivery during an instructional period versus more of an advisory period. And I appreciate that there is flexibility to that, because I think the secondary environments are also very unique, that this will fit into all of our varied schedules. But I look forward to spending some more time with it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's what we're thinking, that each individual administration team will figure out what's the best approach for their particular setting.
Thank you.
Welcome. Shilpa?
Hey, so a lot of my questions did get answered through Arthur's question, but I was just wondering that for elementary or middle or high, will there be specific teacher training sessions? And if yes, I'm wondering if any of this material can be used as text, like, so it can actually be integrated, because even though there is flexibility, just based on the fact that we have new core novels coming in, we have in middle school the history curriculum changing, there's just too many things coming in. So I'm thinking like the focus will, as always, go down to the core subjects. And this will be there, but also sort of in the background. So I'm kind of wondering if there's ways or teacher trainings would allow, or the flexibility would allow teachers to say, okay, we need to do, even if it's just like in lower elementary, even if they're just learning how to summarize a paragraph or a writing, can they look at a video and just write a summary? So it sort of ties into their English standards or stuff like that. With all the new changes coming up in the curriculum, different curriculums, I'm just wondering how it will flow in. And for high school, I'm wondering if this can be part of health, because it is sort of related to mental well-being.
So I feel like you kind of had three parts to your question. One was, is there going to be professional development? And yes, there will be some professional development to help people feel comfortable with it. Your question of could it be integrated into some other learning? Absolutely. And we know teachers are masterful about weaving together, say, history and writing, or weaving together science and math. And so these social emotional topics, I think, lend themselves beautifully to be called upon while you're reading or while you're writing, or mixed in with another subject. So it doesn't have to be time that you carve out to do nothing but this, although it might be. Or the social emotional learning lesson might be a springboard for a writing that comes after that. So absolutely, it can be integrated. In terms of your suggestion that we do this in health in high school, there are 4 years worth of curriculum. There's curriculum designed for 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, and 12th graders. Students only take health pretty much in 9th grade. Yeah. So in 9th grade, it's possible that that might be a good place to present it, but I don't think that can be our whole solution. And I'm not saying it's going to be integrated into health. It's one consideration as we are looking at how can we weave this in. Yeah, thank you. And Megan says health is only a one semester class too, and it's already got a.
Okay, yeah. I'm just maybe thinking. Yeah, I'm just thinking like there's just so many new things coming up. In high school, there's a new PreCalc thing coming up and all. It's just my fear is that, not fear, but just a thought is that, core subjects almost always get a priority. So this will just go in the back burner again.
It's absolutely, it's going to take focus on our part. I agree with you completely. Thank you, Shilpa. Krista.
So like Shilpa, I was going to ask about professional development. So thank you for that. Let me unraise my hand to get my pop-up off there. So thank you for that clarification. That's a lot of professional development between that and the new science curriculum as well. There's a lot coming down the pipeline right now. And I fear that elementary teachers are going to feel overwhelmed. Just a thought to consider. But my biggest question here, and I may have missed it in your presentation, I'm sorry if I did, I've just got other things happening in the house at the same time here. Should have stayed at work. Is there a takeaway for the students, a worksheet, a piece of paper, something to go with each lesson, not just something that they see on the computer, on the projected on the screen and have a conversation? I just find that if they have a piece of paper that they, you know, answer questions, color a worksheet, whatever, it helps them to go home and be able to have that conversation with their families about it.
Yeah, great question, Krista. There are, for most of the lessons at elementary, and I would say for all of the middle school, junior high, and high school lessons, there are student handouts. And also both Second Step and Lion's Quest, part of what we liked about these two programs was that there were family materials as well that could be sent home to let families know about what we've been working on.
Nice. And I like the idea of front loading quite a few of those lessons at the beginning of the year, maybe not all 20, but maybe at least half of them, and then spreading the rest out over the remainder of the first trimester and partway through the second trimester to get most of those things into the students' little heads prior to the end of the school year. I don't want to be teaching SEL lessons in June, right?
I agree. Plus, you'd love to have the vocabulary. You'd love to have the vocabulary and the skills for them to practice all year long, right? If we have a way to talk about what's going on, that's valuable.
Exactly. But I also think pushing them all to the first 20 days might be a little bit much.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Krista. Stacy.
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit off Krista, and as an elementary teacher and with all the PDs and stuff, I don't know what the recommendation is going to be when it is brought to the board, but I'm hopefully that if there is professional development training for staff, it will fall on their staff development days and not be these optional things that teachers can sign up. Because as everyone knows, we get so overwhelmed at the beginning of the year, and just the little overview, it makes me so intrigued. I want to get in and try to play with it. But I could see other teachers, well, there hasn't been any training or it's optional, so I'm just going to push this to the side because I have X, Y, and Z that I need to get done right now with my students. And that's my biggest worry. So I'm hoping part of the recommendation is to find a way to make this part of early staff development so it isn't pushed to the side. That's all.
Great. Thank you very much for that. And that's exactly part of what we wanted to hear. What's it going to take to have this be successful for teachers and administrators, for parents, for students? We just would love to hear that. So thanks, Stacy. Shilpa.
So speaking from a strictly parent perspective, and I've always thought of it as a three-pronged, you have the district, school, student, and parents sort of working together. I think if there are family materials, having parents, even if it's just like a virtual link or somehow blasted a little too often so that parents sort of are forced to click on that link and look at it, have that information sent out, especially for elementary parents because they are more involved in the school, will be helpful to sort of support the teachers also. Because what the teachers are saying, if the same message is being echoed at home, it helps. Right now, at least in middle and high, a lot of time this information gets lost. It's posted on the school websites and stuff, but I mean, even as a parent, I usually go to the school website when I know or I'm expecting a deadline. Okay, it's January, when are the registrations coming in, stuff like that. I'm not checking it every month or every other week or so. So having some sort of a repeat blast to get the parents looking at it will be helpful.
Great suggestion. Thank you, Shilpa. Debbie.
Hi, I have a question. I'm just wondering if we have any insights on what the family information looks like, or if we have anything like that.
Yeah, do you want me to go see if I can find some on the website and show
Sure.
it?
I think that'll
Okay.
be very grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right, so what I'm doing here, I'm in Lion's Quest, so I'm in the high school curriculum, and let me show you. All right, so this is the family handout that goes with lesson 2.3, which is called Exploring Emotions in Action. So you can see that this goes home and talks about what the kids were learning in school, and then gives an opportunity to maybe even apply it there in the family if they want to. So spend a few minutes talking with your family about an issue you or someone you know has been struggling with, and write about the situation. Use an extra piece of paper if you need to. Write about the emotions that you find. And then again, just talking about thoughts and feelings that show up when you think about this. So an opportunity to really get involved as a family if you want to. If you don't want to take it that deeply, you could, of course, just read through it and say, oh, I'm interested, or tell me more about this. So you wouldn't, it's not like this is going to be, well, I would imagine this isn't going to be homework, but I could be wrong about that. But yes, so that gives you an idea of what one of the high school ones looks like. So let me see if I can find one from the okay, so this is the student handout. It's a second grade handout from lesson 4, or from, I'm sorry, unit 4, lesson 16. So again, pretty far into the program. The theme of the lesson is the way to solve a problem. And so this would be the handout that the students would use there in class. So I would imagine that this problem statement, this class is standing in line, but Ricky is in Marianne's spot. I would imagine that that either is the scenario that was shown in the video, or it's similar to the scenario that was shown in the video. And then the prompt is, how can Marianne say the problem without using blame words? Write your answer in the bubble. So this would be something students would do toward the end of the lesson, write it in here. And then I would imagine teachers would probably ask if there are people who'd like to share out, and they talk about the words that they chose and how it was that they were not blaming words, because I suspect a theme from this is there are ways to describe a problem without making people feel badly about it. So this gives you an idea just of what one of the second step handouts looks like.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Oh, you know what? I was just also thinking, do they have any kind of like measuring baseline? Like how will we know how much our students are learning by the end of this curriculum and how much they absorb? Is there some kind of a, evaluation?
I would have to say I haven't seen, like you're talking about, like would there be sort of a pre-assessment and then at the end of the year maybe a post-assessment? I haven't seen that in these, but there are pieces of this that I haven't explored yet because we just adopted them. I think with any luck though, what would really be the evidence that it's working is that you would see your student being able to use the vocabulary, being able to use the skills, being able to, for example, state a problem without using blaming words. So they would be able to actually apply the skills in real life, because that's, of course, that's the ultimate test, right?
Yeah, hopefully we see behavior change.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. All right. Any other thoughts? Any other questions? Anything you want to share before we get ready to wrap up the meeting? Okay, then, Tushar, I'm going to share my screen one more time and turn it back over to you to close this up.
All right, so thank you all for coming today, and our next meeting will be on March 15th, another Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. And we also just wanted to ask again whether we wanted to be online or in person. So for online, would we need to make a motion again?
I think that's probably safe. I know the board has taken actions so that we don't have to have that special determination meeting each time we want to hold a meeting online.
Yeah.
And I believe I've been told we do still have the option of choosing online meetings or in-person meetings. So I guess I would love to have the members talk about where they would like to meet, and then let's have a motion and we can take a vote on that.
All right, so Shilpa, do you have a motion?
No, I wasn't sure if I'm making a motion, but my vote is for online if we are making a vote.
Yeah, so would you be willing to make a motion for online then?
Sure. I make a motion for the C&I meeting for Tuesday, March 15th to be online.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion? Krista?
I second that motion.
All right, thank you. So now that we have a motion and a second, if you would like the meeting to be online, you can type yes in the chat. If you would like to abstain, you can do that. And if you would like it to be in person, you can type no.
My vote is yes. I can't type through this thing right now.
All right. Tushar, let's count these because we do have some yeses and some nos.
I think the motion carries. Yeah, that's what I count to. 8, 4. Oh wait, I think I see 5 no's. But
yeah, I counted 8 yeses and 5 no's.
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion carries, and we will meet online. I will try to have the links be less confusing next month. And I apologize for anyone who ended up being misdirected and redirected at today's meeting. So thank you all for coming today. It was nice to see everybody. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, both about the core novel adoption and also about the social emotional learning adoption. We really appreciate hearing your thoughts. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.